Welcome to Sessions with Coach April, yet another episode where real conversations meet real solutions. I'm your host, April Hogan.
And I'm your other host, Cass Wolford.
And today we're exploring the glow up of failure. How what feels like a flop can actually be the first chapter or the second chapter or even the 10th chapter of your success, right? So first I'm going to ask, how are you doing today, Cass?
I'm doing so much better. I've been sick for the past week and I finally feel like I'm coming over the hurdle of coming down off of it. So I feel great today, actually.
You said coming over a hurdle of coming down off of it. So that's what's up.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So we're going to start by breaking down the word failure itself. When you think of failure, it sounds so final, but is it? So failure is often the best teacher, right? But it doesn't mean that when you're in it, right? So what's one flop cast that you think of that shaped today's biggest success stories for you?
If I'm being completely honest, I'm still a work in progress. It's been a lot of them. I think a lot of times like you said, when we're in it, it feels like it's so final. But when you look back over the course of your life, there's been so many failures and rises and failures, and you overcame and failures and you bounce back. So I can't really define just one.
Mhm.
I feel like all of them have contributed in some way. But I also, again, I still feel like I'm in the middle of trying to pull myself back up, you know what I'm saying, and rebrand and revive myself. And so I feel like it's an ongoing thing that we all go through, because you could be on top today and then tomorrow you're like crap. And it doesn't even have to mean like you completely failed and hit rock bottom, right? It could just mean, okay, I got to the top of one mountain, so now I'm starting something different. And so I'm back on the bottom of trying to climb back up and figure out where I'm going on this next, you know what I'm saying, adventure that I'm going on. So I feel like that's kind of where I am. Like, I've in the past 2 years, I moved to two different states. I moved from Ohio to North Carolina, and then now I'm down in Florida. And I feel like every time I move, it's a series of starting over. I'm learning a new place. I'm moving to, you know what I'm saying, my kids are going to a new school. I'm learning new systems, new traffic, like, just new areas. So I feel like I'm actively in the middle of not necessarily a failure, but just like a restarting to climb the mountain.
Absolutely. I get it.
What about you?
You know, mine marriage. Marriage is my biggest failures. But they shaped my biggest success. I feel like through every situation, I learned a different piece of who I am or who I need to become. And that sounds bad. Like, it doesn't mean like I wouldn't get married or I feel like marriage is a bad thing or men are terrible, or does it? No, but I know that I'm learning my choices matter, right? Like, not actually like taking the time to think through choices. On the business side, like, I can name failures, but I don't feel like they shape the success because that's a lie. I feel like my business failures have shaped the success. It's just harder to point them out because I'm generally steady going. Like, I'm consistently going. So I don't pay attention to those failures. Like, they don't ever slow me down. My marriages have slowed me down. So that's why I blame them. But I also learned from them. Like, I had a lot of like emotional growth, external growth, mental growth, spiritual growth. So that's why I say they're my biggest success stories.
Okay, and that absolutely makes sense. And I like what you said when you said that your business failures didn't slow you down, because, from an audience perspective, regular people, failure can feel really permanent. So how can everyday people turn setbacks into lessons instead of carrying shame and ultimately not let it slow them down?
Well, you have to think like our biggest teacher is a failure, right? Like, we could do it and get it right every time, but then we, number one, don't appreciate it. And then we don't learn how to get better, right? You're going to stay stuck in a space. So when you look at failure as a teacher, so when you fail, instead of looking at it as, oh my gosh, I failed, I'm embarrassed, and I don't get embarrassed. Look, it didn't work. So I have to make a choice now. I'm either going to try it again another way, because now I learned not to do it that way, or I'm going to say, you know what, it failed, but it really wasn't for me anyway. So I'm going to move on to something else. But the point is to never stop. So when you don't look at it as, okay, I failed, so now I take it as a bad thing. Failure is actually so positive because it teaches you. It's a lesson. It helps you know what not to do. And then it helps you take those lessons to teach somebody else not to do what not to do. I feel like some of my biggest achievements have came because I figured out one way didn't work. So I had to sit and think about it. And then when I thought about it, it's like, oh, wow, like this would have been much better this way anyway, because I learned that way didn't work. So what about you?
Well, first of all, I will say that is one thing I do love about you is that you don't get embarrassed. You will laugh at yourself. I'm like Avion. I'm one of those where it's like if I get embarrassed in the moment, I'm heated. Everybody got to run a fade. Like I don't care. I'm mad at everybody. So I need to work on that. I definitely need to work on that. But I agree, though. I mean, it is about the bounce back. And like I said, it's one thing to be like in this moment, I feel defeated, I feel shamed. But I'm gonna be honest, it's hard to not sit there. Ultimately, that's what you have to do is not sit there in it. And at some point, you do have to get up. I will admit, I think my bounce back to get up is slower than other people's.
Okay.
So I have to sit in it for a second, that I internalize, and I have to process a range of emotions to go through and then pull myself up out of it. So it does take a minute, but ultimately you can't sit there. That's the most important thing. You have to keep moving at some point.
Absolutely, I agree. You definitely have to keep moving, because if you don't, then you're failure. You're failing at failing.
Yeah.
You can
It
win
only
from
becomes
failure.
permanent if you stay there. That's
Right.
what it is. Yeah.
Agreed.
So if failure isn't final, which we just said that it's not, how do you rewrite the story while you're still in the messy middle?
So the biggest thing is like taking a step away. We tend to like get so bottled up on what we have going on that, and we're looking at it from the inside perspective, where you need to actually step out for a second, look at it from an external perspective. And that may mean getting other people that you trust. It's your community, your group, right? The people who you trust to look at and like, all right, this is what happened. And that's why the embarrassment, it's important to not be embarrassed, because when you're embarrassed, you don't tend to want to go to anybody, like, because you don't want
Yeah.
to tell anybody. But when you find those people that you trust, you're like, hey, like this happened, honest opinion, what are your thoughts on it? And it's nice if you can have a couple of different perspectives, because just because you get a perspective doesn't mean that the people are going to understand exactly what you're going through, but at least you can see other sides of it. Then when you see theirs, then you take a look at it from the outside and be like, okay, so this is what happened. So since this happened, now I number one, I have to make a choice. Do I want to continue to do this? Like, is it even worth it? Like, how bad was it? And
Right.
if the answer is yes, then now what did I do? What made it fail? Like, we're talking about a methodology, right? The 5 why. Why? Why did it fail? And then why to that why? And then why to that why, right? Like, so
Yeah.
figure out why and then take that why and then come up with several solutions out as to how you can fix it. And then with those several solutions, pick which one you're about to go with. And you may fail at that one. You know what? Like you may, but
Yeah.
the point is you have to decide, is it important enough for you to keep going? Or do you want to say, okay, I'm going to put this down and I'm going to restart? I see this meme with Eddie Murphy where it says, don't be afraid to start over. I'm on my 4th life. I'm probably on like my 15th life. What about you? Like, how do you kind of get through that messy middle and
Yeah, I
continue
feel
on?
like I'm on like my 20th life too. Like sometimes I'll be amazed, like, God, listen, I know we done been through this a lot.
Right.
But I'm a Cancer, I'm hard-headed. So but yeah, I mean that's actually really sound advice. And that's exactly, what I'm saying, kind of what I ascribe to as well. I mean, sometimes you just have to, like you said, decide if you want to pivot out of it and just do something else. But you can't stay there. I always tell my kids fear is paralyzing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's easy advice to give, but not always easy to apply. But
Yeah.
fear really is paralyzing. And the longer you stay in something, the longer it becomes permanent. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
The longer you let concrete sit, the longer it hardens and it becomes almost virtually impossible to get out of it. So
Yeah.
you still got to move around while things are still wet and you have the option. Again, it's not always practical to apply it when you're in the middle of that. But the important thing to remember is everything in the past you thought you couldn't overcome, you overcome it.
Yeah.
So that means you can overcome this too.
Absolutely. Well, and then another thing is to remember it's okay to be fearful. Like
Yeah.
it's okay to fail. It's okay to like be scared. That's the thing is people are like, oh, I'm scared. Okay, that's fine. Like trust me, even the most successful people in the world are still
Mm-hmm.
scared. Like the speakers who speak every day on stages with thousands and thousands of people, every time they get up there, trust me, they're nervous. Like
Yeah.
there's no way that's ever going to stop. The difference is are you going to push through that? right?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you going to let that cripple you? Are you going to let that paralyze you? And as long as your goal is to, even if it's baby steps, right? Like, even if I'm supposed to do, if I want to be a speaker and I get up and I do like a 2 minute in front of 5 people, I tried. Like, I took a step. Take a step. Your steps don't have to be leaps. Just take the step. But it is okay to be scared. Just work through it.
Yeah.
So, as with that being said, if you had to reframe the word failure for entrepreneurs or even just career-minded individuals, what definition would actually inspire instead of discourage?
Practice. If you look at it, I'm just practicing.
Yeah.
So that way, if I fail, it's like, okay, this is practice. It's supposed to happen. That way, when I get in front of other people and it's time for showtime, then it's the real thing, and then I'm fine. But look at every failure. This is just practice. I'm just practicing this anyway.
So I was practicing my marriages.
Right? I did too. The first round was just practice.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, I agree. I couldn't come up with a better word. I feel like that's the perfect word. Practice. You're practicing. And at some point you're gonna, get to the point where you're actually living in it and you're no longer practicing. So yeah, I like that.
I mean, think about it. Doctors are practicing medicine. Even after they got a degree, they're still practicing.
Yeah, they're definitely practicing.
And we put our lives in their hands. So we might as well apply it to everything else.
Hey, girl, you're not lying. You're not lying.
What's one small mindset shift our listeners can apply today when something doesn't go their way?
So, the first piece is, if I say one small mindset shift that you can apply when something doesn't go your way, is realize, number one, it's not your plan, right? Like, and I don't want to turn it into, you guys know I'm a believer, so I don't want to turn it into a sermon, but it's not about you, right? So since it's not about you, technically, you didn't fail. Like, it's not going to go your way anyway. Like, and not saying that God failed, because he didn't fail. He's taking you through a process, and you need that process. Like, once you see what's at the end, you're going to be so thankful for everything that you went through to get you there. So we were actually talking about that today, me and Cassidy, on the way home. We were talking about Pandora, where Pandora was like failure after failure after failure. So I just did a walkthrough today, and I was like, I can't wait for this to hop off, because the money that's in it is crazy. She's like, I know. She's like, it just seems like so much has happened. I said, but yeah, when it's done though, like, because we already know the potential, right? Mm-hmm. Imagine when it's done. And when she's like, yeah, when it's running smoothly, I'm like, yeah. So like, we wouldn't have that same type of appreciation. They wouldn't have learned all the things that they learned about the process in terms of what the companies that were onboarding are going through, if we didn't have the failures, if they didn't have to help with support calls, if they didn't have to answer these questions, if they didn't have to try to answer it. So they are so much more knowledgeable now that we had all these issues, even for Ariel to be able to go to an expo without me, present the product, because we had to go through all the hell when it failing. So she understands it better, right? So, and Kenneth can run through the program because he understands it, because they had to go through answering all these crazy questions and figuring it out through the failures. So I would say it's just understanding, number one, like, failures, like you said, the practice is how you're figuring it out. It's like the formula to figure out what the correct way is. And then just understanding, like, it's not your failure. Like, you're going to appreciate it better and more once you realize, and it's going to be a better product because you know what not to do. So same question for you.
So I have this saying, again, it's always, I come up with this great stuff that it's like, okay, it sounds good when you tell somebody else, but then when you have to apply it to yourself, it's like, don't nobody want to hear that. But the saying is, there's only one thing in life that will inevitably kill you. Everything else will survive.
Yeah.
Like, there's only one thing that's going to happen where it's like, all right, that's final. That's the end of the chapter. That's all she wrote. God says it's you're done. Your time is up. Everything else you'll survive, and then you overcome it. Like, I swear, every time I go through something, it's like, okay, this is really, it's the hardest thing ever. Oh, I'm just so depressed. I'm so tired. I'm so frustrated. And then when things like, I go through it, and then I'm like, okay, it wasn't terrible. Like, it was terrible when I was in it, but then when I'm coming over, it's like, all right, the sun's shining again. A new day is coming. Life goes on. But in that moment, it's just like, oh my God, it's just so heavy. But there's only one thing. So I'm trying to myself keep that in the forefront of my mind of, okay, I survived this before, I'll survive it again. And I'm trying to let that be my guiding force instead of going straight to, oh my God, Lord, what am I going to do?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to just tell myself, like, you've done this before, Cass. This is not new. You got through this before. And when you think about it, and this is the way you said it, of it's not your failure. God wrote it this way to teach you a lesson. You're like, all right, God, if you already pre-planned this a certain way, it's only gonna end the way you want it to end.
Right.
So prep me for that. Prep me for the way you want it to end. And if that means I gotta go through this fire, okay, then all right, here we go.
Which you does make you question, like, God, why I gotta have it this way?
I didn't want to say it, so I'm glad you did.
I knew what you were thinking. But so another thing though, so like I guess so since I went through, and I relate to this a lot when I think of like my medical situation and when I was really sick, what you said resonated in terms of like I've been through. I always think, man, I've been through worse. That was the worst. So I went through all this because that was like crazy. But then on top of that, even that, I needed that to get me out of the situation that I was in because I needed to see what I was forcing myself to stick through. Right. So like, he's like, I feel like I keep trying to show you other ways. You're not listening. So I got to do this because even if I wasn't sick for so long, it would have been easier to just be like, okay, well, snap back. I'll go back. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, I needed to be in a space where like, I knew what was up. Right. So I feel like when it comes back to like those things of like just remembering like, yeah, you've been through stuff before, and just like you've gotten through those things, you'll get through this. And if you don't get through it, then it wasn't meant for you to.
Yeah.
Ultimately, what can you do? So you just got to keep on pushing either way. So let's talk about the bounce back though, because the rise after the fall is where the magic happens, right? Mm-hmm. Which is why you can't stay stuck. So how do leaders bounce back differently than those who stay stuck in the shame and the failure?
Leaders don't let the shame and the failure define who they are. They know there's something greater out there that they still want to do. They know it's another mountaintop they want to reach. They know they have to do it by any means necessary. You know, it's easy to be like, all right, I'm sick of doing this. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've gotten to a point where even recently, I'm like, you know what, Lord, I think I might be tired of trying to climb. Like, I think I'm tired of trying to run the rat race. I'm tired of trying to be like, I'm a break generational curses. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. I'm tired of it. Like, it's been enough failure. It's been enough, you know what I'm saying? Feeling like I've been kicked down the mountain again. I'm tired of trying to get back up there. I think I might just want to be like, all right, what's down here in the valley? Let me just settle down here and figure this out down here and make that where I'm gonna be at. Because it's more frustrating and hurtful to keep feeling like you're climbing and then it's not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. So I don't think I want to do it no more. But then there's always that piece. It's like, okay, but you do though. You know there's something more that you want. You know there's more that you want to accomplish, more that you want to do, more that you want to see, not just for you, but for your family. Which is why I said my next life I'm gonna be by myself. Well, if I be like, I don't want to do it no more, I ain't got nobody going, but Mom, you can. Nope. If I want to stay out here, oh, nobody care.
You said you wanted to be the ugly guy. Not even the ugly woman. The ugly guy. No, but I mean, I agree. And you probably won't believe this, but I just told Kizzy a couple of days ago, I just want to close this damn company. I'm tired. But I know I wouldn't be able to. Like, I do. Yeah. I love my company. I love what I do. But it does have times where it's like, man, like it does feel like there's a lot of pressure. But then the alternative, right? To barely make it, it's you got to pick a struggle. Like, you either gonna struggle climbing or you gonna struggle because you're at the bottom.
But I mean, and I'm not making excuses, right? I'm not gonna stop trying to climb. But when you at the bottom, it's kind of like it's an easier way out. I hate to say
What's
that.
What's the easy way out?
Just
what is it? But then you don't have nothing. You be hungry. Because even necessities, you got to worry about how you going to get the necessities, all of that. So it's still a struggle.
I donate to people on the street all the time.
Oh my God.
Even as the ugly dude, somebody be like, let me.
And then God's blessing will be nobody donates to you because you know better. He said you wanted this.
You're right. You're right. I'm gonna let you have that one, as Pinky was saying. Yeah, I'm not gonna give into that. Listeners, don't listen to me. I'm not ascribing to that. But sometimes it does feel like the easier way to go. But that's not what we're That's not what we're about, right? We want you guys to bounce back. We want you to have the resilience to get up and keep going, because as long as you have breath in your body, you still have fight to do it another day. And it's always easy, like I said, to just lay down and be like, I'm gonna give up. But it's not just about you all the time. Your purpose and your passion and your resilience is for somebody else's story and motivation as well. So definitely don't give up.
Right. But it is nice to know, I'm sorry, real quick. It is nice to know that people do feel that way, right?
Yeah.
So just relatable. So we're not saying it, we're not making these jokes because we're like, give up. We're making the jokes because understand, like, you're not, if you feel that way, there's nothing wrong with that. Just keep pushing through it. Like, we all feel that way sometimes.
Yeah. So can you share a story of how of a failure that didn't feel worth it in the moment, but later opened an unexpected door?
A failure that didn't feel worth. I don't feel like none of them feel worth it in the moment.
Exactly.
Like, especially when you feel like you put so much money into stuff. Like, this just like, this is like, and then it's like, oh my gosh. Like, but for me, especially being a solutions architect, where I work with so many different kind of companies, I always later understand the value of even going through the things that failed, and even the things that failed that I didn't start back. It's because I'm learning something. Like, I've been in so many types of industries, and people ask me all the time, man, what don't you do? I know, right? Like, I don't sell drugs. That's what I don't do. But anyway, I don't, y'all. So if y'all thought that's what she was about to say, I don't.
We could, but
but yeah, so I learned so much. And then because I work with companies, now I have the extra expertise to be able to tell somebody else how to do it because I tried it, or what not to do because I tried it. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like I don't have a specific story in terms of like what didn't feel. None of them do. None of these failures feel fun when it's happening. But the positive is what I take out of it after the fact. And I'm one of those who I don't really count the failures. Like, that's why I said my biggest failures earlier were marriages. My work failures, I don't count as failures because I very rarely get to a point where I say that I stop. Like, I just take it as like a sprint. When you're thinking of like, if those who don't know what that is, when you're working in like the development world and you're working in like a scrum, you have sprints. So you do something and then you evaluate and then you do another thing and then you evaluate, and you keep going back until you finally get the product. So if you make failures in those sprints, you're fixing them. So it's not necessarily a failure. It's a test. Hey, I'm testing it now. Did it work? Oh, no, it didn't. Oh, wait. So now let's do another sprint. So I don't necessarily consider my failures as failures. I consider it like a sprint because I'm going to keep on going. It's not a failed until I said, hey, I'm not doing this no more. Then it failed, but I made the decision. I made the decision. So technically it's not a failure. I just don't want to do it anymore. So how about you? What story of a failure didn't seem worth it to you, but later opened an unexpected door?
Honestly, I can't pinpoint one either. I mean, I thought when I left Ohio, I didn't really consider it as a failure. I knew I wanted to do something different in my life. I feel like people around me looked at it as a failure. Because even to this day, they're like, well, why'd you leave? Why aren't you coming back home? You know, things like that. It's like, I want to do something different. I don't want to stay in the same place, doing the same things and not getting the results that I want. And I feel like me moving out of my hometown, and there's nothing against my hometown. You know, I'm a Midi to the day I die. Like, I love my city. I love the people there. I love the community I grew up in, for better or for worse. But I feel like there were just things that I wanted to accomplish that I couldn't do as long as I was still there. Stop looking like that. You still a Midi too.
I am Midi.
There were just things I wanted to accomplish that I couldn't do there. And I feel like sometimes people get so comfortable just where they are, they expect for you to stay comfortable there. And then they almost get offended when you're like, I'm not comfortable here anymore. Like, you have the audacity to uproot and leave and just leave us behind. It's like, well, no, you could move too. But if you want to stay, that doesn't mean I have to. So I don't really consider anything a failure that I didn't feel worth it in the moment. I just feel like me leaving opened unexpected doors, and I met wonderful new people, and I've had wonderful new experiences that I would have never had if I had to stay trapped in Middletown, Ohio.
Right. No, I agree.
So sometimes the hardest part is deciding whether to pivot or push through, like we talked about. So let's dig into that. How do you know when a failure means pivoting versus when it means pushing through, or like you said, sprinting?
So I would say you really have to, like, so one thing about purpose is you have to kind of learn who you are, and you have to learn what's worth it. So when you learn who you are and you learn your purpose and you understand what's worth it, it's almost like second nature. Because for me and you guys, I am always starting something new. Like my team tells me, like, hey, you're not supposed to be starting anything new. Stop doing new stuff. Like your coaches told you to stop spreading yourself too thin. Yeah, true, but I kind of like the idea of this thinking of money we can make, right? So I am big on like serial entrepreneurship, right? But I also know the things, and every now and then, and it's probably like once or twice, once a year, once every other year, where I sit down and I line up everything that I have going on. And I'm like, okay, what doesn't serve you? What's not making money? What can you go without doing because you're getting to a point that you're doing the most? Like, so there's several things that I've put down a couple of times because it's like it's not you're doing it because it's fun for you, it's a hobby more than it actually benefiting your purpose. So once you learn who you are you learn your purpose, and then you evaluate what's worth it, you stop. So like some stuff I'll try it because it's fun and I want to just say that I did it, and if it's successful, great, and if it's not, well, I really don't care. The things that I push through are the things that it's hard to say I won't do it anymore. So like anything along the lines of like helping businesses, it's hard to not do that. I have a whole wine brand and a cigar brand that's sitting there. And people ask about it sometimes, and I'm like, yeah, I got it, but I don't have a passion for it. So it's sitting there. And one day I may decide to open it back up. One day I may, but I may not. But if it sits there, it sits there because it's not really a passion of mine. So that's really just understanding yourself. What is your thoughts on that?
I mean, I agree. It definitely comes down to what's no longer serving you. I mean, it's one of those things where you get to a point where, and I went through that with my marriage because I'm one of those people where I will hold on. Again, I'm a Cancer. I will hold on so I can't hold on no more. Like you almost have to pry something out of my hands before I'm just like, okay, I'm done with this. Especially when it comes to like people I love and relationships and stuff like that, which definitely hasn't served me in the past because I hold on way longer than I should. But it's one of those things where it's like, okay, once you show me it's no longer serving me, then it's like, okay, well, now I have no problem letting go. But I mean, that it gets to an almost painful point of having to be shown that sometimes. And that's also, like you said, recognizing who you are. Because when I look back on some of my failures and things that I went through, I'm like, okay, this, Lord, you probably have to take me through this. If I'm honest with myself, he probably did. Because I'm one of those people where I hold on for too long, and he could have gave me 15 million times, and I still would have been like, I would have found one more reason to still hold on because it's what I wanted. Yeah. So my plan for this half of my life, now that I'm 40, now that we're 40, I keep doing it.
39.
And this half of my life, I don't want to hold on so long. I want to recognize the signs early and be mature enough, bold enough, brave enough, not fearful enough to be like, all right, you ain't got to tell me twice. I'm gonna let it go because it doesn't serve me anymore. And that's not easy.
So what role does resilience play in transforming mistakes into momentum?
It plays a big role in it because, again, sometimes if you sit in it, you can lose momentum. If you sit in it, you're like, versus if you just pivot and be like, okay, that didn't work. And like you said, you're like a sprint. I'm gonna go back to the starting line and do something different. That's building momentum where you keep that, that fire, those sparks keep going. You can build something else. You can pivot off of that and turn that into something better. And that could be your thing. That very next thing you just go straight into. Versus if you just sit in it and then you're, woe is me and I feel bad and it didn't work out, so I'm sit here and cry and things like that. It slows you down because now you got to rebuild the spark all over again after you dig yourself out of that hole. Versus when you're above ground, it's like, okay, I'm not sinking. I'm just pulling myself back. That's so much easier to just be like, okay, I'm going to just step out of this for a second to dig yourself out of something later.
Okay, I love it. So I'm not going to answer it because I feel like you gave a good answer, and it kind of ties into something that and we're almost 30 minutes. You guys, we're trying so hard to stay at our 30 minutes. So I want to remind you guys a couple of takeaways. Number one, failure isn't the end. It's the raw material for greatness. Cass, give
and the glow up happens when you take what broke you and let it build you. Remember, the stumble doesn't define you. The rise does.
All right. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in to Sessions with Coach April. Of course, we always love to have you. Make sure that you follow us on our social media. And then we'll see you next week, Wednesday at 12:15 lunchtime at Sessions with Coach April. Bye.
Bye.